In today's Leeds news, kickoff times moved, new deal for Academy star, striker search gets complicated, leaked away kit details, and Aaronson on fan backing. Hey folks, welcome to the Leeds View for your news on Thursday, the 22nd of January. I hope you're all having a really good week so far. Plenty of stuff to get stuck into this week as we get ready for the weekend's game. We'll get the smaller news stories out of the way right now before we get into the proper stories. Just to keep you up to date on a few bits and pieces, Leeds United under-21s will take on Anderlecht in the Premier League International Cup tonight. You can check that one out on LUTV. Also, the podcast will be out around the usual times between 7:30 and 8 p.m. tonight, as we look back at all of the news around Leeds this week and the game coming up at the weekend. Also, Chris Somerville looks like he could be heading off to Tottenham Hotspur for the exact same fee that West Ham bought him from Leeds United, which is an interesting one as well. And some detail, we're not going to talk about the Patrick Angerman transfer story because it came out yesterday from Football Insider. Within an hour or two, it had already been debunked by Derby County, who said there'd been no approach for the striker from anybody at this point, which could be just talk, but given their track record, we won't get into that in too much detail until we see it from someone a little bit more credible than them. But there is some stuff to get stuck into and talk about. We'll start off with kickoff times being moved, to absolutely nobody's surprise. Last night we got confirmation that 2 games for Leeds United have been selected for TV in March, with both of them being moved, but one of them might just get moved a second time, with more information on that not coming until either late February or early March. Leeds games against Sunderland and Brentford have both been scheduled for TV, but the Brentford game may end up moving a second time, depending on other clubs that are involved in other competitions, which is a little bit of a head-scratching decision, and Leeds United themselves are said to be a little bit irked by this decision. On Leeds' website, they have this caveat to the Brentford game, and it reads as follows. The match will move to 5:30 p.m. if Chelsea reach the EFL Cup final. This will be known on 3rd of February. If that does occur, the match will move to 12:30 p.m. If Liverpool reach the UEFA Champions League last 16 and are scheduled to play away in the preceding Wednesday, that will be known by the 2nd of March. Right now, Leeds game against Sunderland seems pretty much locked in stone. That one's going to take place on Tuesday, the 3rd of March, and the kickoff time will be 7:30 p.m. That'll be on TNT Sports. A nice evening kickoff. Our record is very good at home in evening kickoff, so not a huge amount of complaints for that one right now. The Brentford one is the one that has annoyed people a little bit. That's scheduled for Saturday, the 21st of March, kicking off at 8 p.m. or kicking off at 12:30 p.m. or possibly kicking off at 5:30 p.m. Then that's the issue on this one. Neither Leeds nor Brentford are in the EFL Cup at this point. Both have been eliminated, and neither of them are involved in the Champions League. But this game will be dictated by other clubs playing in other competitions. And I don't think many people will complain about an evening kickoff at Ellen Road if that is the case in that game. 12:30 might be one that they complain about a little bit more. But from an international fan base perspective, this makes planning their trips and organising flights and hotels a little bit more tricky. There are hundreds of Leeds fans come from Ireland every single week to watch Leeds in Ellen Road, and the same from Scandinavia. They come in their droves to watch that, and that makes their planning a little bit more difficult in these games. So those planning on flying in and flying out on the same day won't be able to organise that one until at least March, which will likely mean flights will be more expensive by that stage. So not an ideal situation, but we'll get more detail on that when it does come out. Let's move on. Let's talk about a new deal. Good news that came out of the club yesterday, and highly rated young attacker Reece Chadwick has signed a new deal at the club that will keep him at Leeds United until the end of the 2026-2027 season. In the last 3 seasons, Reece Chadwick has been involved in 29 goal contributions in 51 games for the club. He's also part of the Leeds United matchday training squad, as well as being part of Leeds' pre-season tour to Germany. He's played in the National League Cup, the Premier League International Cup, the Premier League 2, as well as the Virtue Trophy as well. So lots of experience for a very young player at this point. A brief statement on the Leeds United website said this: everyone at the club would like to congratulate Reece on signing and look forward to seeing his development over the coming seasons. Himself, Sam Chambers, Harry Gray, Ollie Pickles, Sam Alker are all very highly rated at the club. There's plenty of others also very highly rated at the club. It's great to see Freddie Lane back in training after a long-term injury there as well with the under-21. So there's lots of talent in that squad. lots of players to keep an eye on over the next couple of weeks and months and years. You can also, again, just a reminder, check out that game. The under-21s will play tonight against Anderlecht in the Premier League International Cup. You can check that one out later on today. Let's move on and talk about the main talking point today, and that's the striker search, and it's all gotten a little bit more complicated. We're at that point in the transfer window now where inquiries, negotiations start to turn into clubs putting bids in and actually competing with each other for the same players. This year the window will close on February the 2nd, giving clubs 12 days to get their business finalised. We will have a live stream, as we always do, on deadline day, but the last hour or 2 hours. Even if Leeds are not involved in that, we will cover off all the transfers that have happened for all the sides around us this winter as well. Leeds are known, as we know, to be keen on adding at least one more player to the squad. Jurgen Strand-Larsen is the player that they are said to want. However, yesterday we spoke about the interested clubs outside of Leeds that were maybe starting to drop off the radar just a little bit as they picked up other players. But today the waters got a little bit more muddy and the concrete links have now started to come and turn to dust. The latest on this comes from several different places, so it's a bit scattered right now, but we'll try and bring it all into one place. And as we always say, at this point of a transfer window, natural skepticism on every single transfer is understandable until you see them in a Leeds United shirt or joining another club. Assign the right level of skepticism to it. So we'll start off, and the first part comes from Isaac Johnson, who states that Leeds United are still interested in Jurgen Strand-Larsen, but Leeds haven't yet received a response to their initial inquiries. And as David Ornstein said in The Athletic when this story broke first, Leeds may never go past the inquiry phase in this deal. If Wolverhampton Wanderers don't respond to Leeds, or if Leeds can't structure the deal the way they need to, then this deal will likely not happen. And that has always been the case and has always been described as a complex deal. Even Graham Smith recently on the Square Ball described it as a complex deal, but Leeds felt that they could possibly get this one done, but I think they need a clear run at it in order to get that one across the line. There's been two talks this morning, one from Talk Sport and one from Team Talk, and they both come in with pretty much the same situation here. Alex Crook from TalkSport as an exclusive claims that Crystal Palace are now very much in the mix, as Jean-Philippe Mateta looks like he's going to head off, and they're holding talks with Crystal Palace. And Strand-Larsen does have a relationship with the Crystal Palace sporting director, as he was the man that brought him to England in the first place. Team Talk claim through Graham Bailey that Crystal Palace have opened talks with Wolves over a £40 million deal, and says that Leeds would likely be knocked out of the race should that be the case. Now, Jean-Philippe Mateta is the make weight in this. If he doesn't move, then this probably doesn't happen, but it looks likely that he is going to go. He's asked to leave the club. Strand-Larsen will be a like-for-like replacement for him in that situation, and Palace, like Leeds, are said to be looking at structuring the deal, which is where this story starts to get a little bit more complicated. There's Newcastle have been thrown into the mix here in this piece from Graham Bailey as well, saying that they're monitoring the situation, but they tried to get Strand-Larsen during the summer. They didn't get him, and they moved on to Voltemade and Visa. So they've brought in two strikers. Visa's still settling in there after being out injured. Voltemade's been a bit of a success since he's gone there so far, so it seems unlikely that they would then look to spend a huge amount of money on Strand-Larsen as well. Bailey says that Leeds are not in a position to meet the £40 million asking price, so that would rule them out of the mix completely. However, also in this piece, the key line for me is from Bailey that Crystal Palace want a structured deal, which is exactly what Leeds United are looking for, which means a £40 million fee really isn't relevant if it's going to be structured over 4 or 5 years, and both clubs are looking to do the same. It would depend on what that upfront fee would look like. Now, again, going back to the David Ornstein piece on this, it was always said to be an inquiry. It hasn't gone beyond that. No official bid from Leeds has gone in on this one. Leeds have got probably £7 to £10 million of wiggle room when it comes to a PSR situation, so they can't just go and throw 40 million quid at this one up front. If Palace decide to put a huge amount of money up front on this, that's it done. Leeds will be out of the mix completely on this, and Leeds are hoping for a structured deal in this one. So it's not looking likely at this point. It's gone very quiet around Leeds transfer stories right now, which usually means something's going on in the background. And the last time I said that, we went and signed Buenanotte, and they have a habit of doing that. But it'll only happen if Leeds can get the right set of circumstances, and that has been said since the beginning of this one, that if they can get those circumstances, then they will look to bring in another target man. So yeah, not going to get too wound up. There's plenty of people in the chat every single day we cover this story who are saying don't want him, don't think he's at that level. I think he would fit the system quite well. I think he might be a success at Leeds. Again, the Norwegian connections, the Scandinavian Leeds connections, and his agent being a Leeds fan maybe that can be all added to the mix as well. But it's not going to be straightforward. As we say, Graham Smith and everybody else has always described this as being a pretty complex deal. But take all of it, as we always say, with a healthy pinch of salt, and we'll see what comes out in the wash as and when the window starts to wind down. It could be a busy last 2 weeks for Leeds. They are trying to get something done. But yeah, let's move on. Let's talk about the away kit leaked information. A slightly less serious story on this one to move away from Strand-Larsen, and we're at the point where more information around the Leeds United kits have started to leak out on social media. The away kit is the one that's gathering all of the pace, and there's been some leaked images floating around on social media over the last week or two that people are starting to think are the definitive version of what will be Leeds United's away kit next season. However, footy headlines initially were the ones that leaked the information of this, along with an artist's impression and a render of what it could potentially look like. That potential has now turned into a real kit and is now floating around all the social media sites, but it's not exactly what the final version may look like. It may look exactly like this, but it also may not, and there are some slight things just to keep an eye out for on this. The first one is the badge that you can see on screen. If you're listening on the audio, it's the Leeds Yorkshire Rose crest from the 90s. And the issue with this one is Leeds have trademarked this version of the crest, which has Leeds United on it, but no AFC for Association Football Club. The renders that are doing the rounds all have the AFC in it. Leeds are expected to have some form of a retro badge on the shirt. That's rumoured to be the Rose badge, but it might not have the AFC on the badge, so that might be the first thing to keep an eye out on those kits. So what is actually known about the away kit at this point? So we do know that Leeds will revert to a retro crest that is believed to be the Yorkshire Rose, and the Adidas Trefoil original logo will appear on a Leeds United kit for the first time in the club's history. The badge, as I say, is a sticking point on this. The one that's been trademarked doesn't have AFC on it. The one on the render does, but Leeds have also trademarked a huge amount of old crests from the club's history, which may be an indication of what Leeds plan to do in the future with some kits or merchandise. So that's worth keeping an eye on as well. But at this point, it's not known what exactly this kit will look like. We're getting a better indication of it. We know it'll be yellow, we know it'll have a trefoil logo, and we know it will have a Yorkshire Rose pattern throughout the jersey. But it may look exactly like this. If it does, great stuff. It's a cracking looking shirt, but there might be some little differences on it before it does actually finally get released. Right, let's move on. Let's talk about Brendon Aaronson and the fan reaction to him recently. It's been a tough road and a tough few years for Brendon Aaronson in a Leeds United shirt, or even when he wasn't in a Leeds United shirt. And he's been on the receiving end of consistent heavy criticism since he decided to move away from Leeds United after the relegation season, head to Union Berlin. And since his return, he's been questioned regularly on his physicality and his input and ability for Leeds United over the past season and a half. But it's safe to say that Aaronson is arguably going through the best phase that he's had in a Leeds United shirt right now, and is leaving a bit of an impact on the pitch. When he came off against Fulham, he had another standing ovation after a very hard working performance, and I don't think at any point anybody questioned the work rate that Brendon Aaronson put into the side. The question marks were always around the physicality side of it, as well as his impact and involvement in matches. His partnership with Dominic Calvert-Lewin is flourishing right now, and it's a major factor in what has been a very successful season for him right now. Having a target man to play off and one to create a bit of space for him as well to allow him to play on has definitely made him look far more dangerous and impactful this season, and his statistics all back that up. Aaronson has got more goal contributions already this season than he had in the entirety of last season's campaign, and we all hope that that continues. But speaking with The Athletic, Aaronson has talked about the fan reaction recently and is delighted with the backing that he has received. And speaking with Barron Cross, Brendon Aaronson had the following to say. It's crazy. The biggest thing is I'm lucky because I can't say enough about the support system. The people around the club, it hasn't been an easy road, mentally at least. But I've always had the backing from the people that I love the most. It meant the world to me to hear they're backing me. I love this club. I love this fan base. And it's amazing when you're going to Derby away and you have them louder than the Derby fans and they're sold out over there. It's crazy. Aaronson also pointed to the fact of the work that Daniel Farke has been doing with him over the past year and a half as well, and says that Farke notices the little elements and little details of his game that he needs to work on and has a desire to consistently keep improving in a Leeds United shirt. The full article is available over on theathletic.com with Barron Cross. It's a really good read. It's a very long article. There's a lot more in it than I've covered here today, but it's definitely worth checking out. He just talks about, well, more detail about how it felt to be have his name signed by the Leeds United fans once again, which was there the first year he was at the club, went away for a long period of time and is now back again. So it's great to see it. He's on a very strong run of form. During this stickier part of the year when the weather's not great, we'll see if it continues over the rest of the season. But so far this year, he has contributed, and that's all you ask for anybody wearing a Leeds United shirt. And it's great to see a redemption arc. At the moment, Junior Firpo had his last year's. Brendon Aaronson's having his this year. So we'll see what happens with all of them. But yeah, I suppose just don't write anybody off too early. I think we've been proven on that one in the past with Jayden Bogle as well. So yeah, interesting one. Great to see it happening. Long may it continue. Folks, that'll be it for me this morning. Back tonight with the podcast and the lads, and you can check that out. We'll be over on bigup.com at some point as well for Daniel Farker press conference reaction. And we'll leave it there. Enjoy the rest of your day, and I'll talk to you this evening. See you later. Bye.